it's been a ride from going from, hey, I don't have to be a W-2 salary guy to being an entrepreneur. And I read an email from him to the partners saying profanities that I can't repeat here. Basically, screw him. Let's take it. I dealt with anxiety and depression for a while, and it was for sure a rough thing. But man, God used it in a really powerful way. And I learned a lot along the way, which is what the foundation of all that I do now was built then.
Hey everyone, I am Jeremiah Isley. Welcome to In the Ellipsis. And today, really excited for this episode. A great interview coming ahead here. A good friend of mine is on the show today, Mr. Jason Keppe. He is, the head guru, the big cheese over at SurePath Digital. And really fascinating story. I know Jason really well, so I've heard bits and pieces of it, throughout the years. But really excited to sit down and have a conversation with him. Before we do that, though, just a quick reminder, head on over to crookedpathmedia.com. You can check out all the things that we do there. Also, if you want to get a hold of me, all the information's in the show notes, but I'm on all the socials at Jeremiah Isley, and you can get a hold of me there. And with that, we'll get the housekeeping out of the way. And I'll say, hi, Jason.
How you doing, man? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to be on. I know you're a busy guy, so carving some time out, I really appreciate that.
No, it's a pleasure. All the pleasure's mine.
Awesome. So let's start with the bookends, right? So page 1, you're where? Page... I don't know. We won't go into what page number or chapter number it is, but where did you start? Where are you now? Just give us sort of that, that contrast of your beginning to your present.
For sure. Yeah. So I think I grew up I was thinking about this before we jumped on. I think I grew up in a home and a family where I don't know that I personally knew any entrepreneurs at all, other than maybe full-time farmers. So
yeah, okay.
Now, growing up in the country, there was lots of those, but we didn't consider those guys businessmen. We considered them hard working, just Americans,
Right.
So anyway, it was funny because my whole life, it was go to school, get good grades, go to college, get good grades, go get a job, work for 40 years, get a watch and say, you did it. And that was what I just assumed. So that's what I did.
Sure.
I went to Ohio State, my future wife there. She wasn't my future wife then because I was engaged to be married to a different person, but that's a different podcast. So, and I just started in the workforce and, I actually quit college. I got 4 years into would have been a 5 or 5.25 year engineering degree. Said, this is not what I want to do. And really at that point just said, man, I'm spending money here and I'm doing nothing. I'm just going to go get a job. And so I did that for a few years. And I started training at New Horizons Computer Learning Center. And I call that out for one specific reason. There's two things that I learned. One is that I love to learn. And two is that I love to teach others. And so I started learning HTML. They gave me this HTML book and said, hey, go teach this. And said, cool. And long story short, I look at this, I'm like, wow, this is cool. So anyway, fast forward, I go through ups and downs through careers, W-2 salaried careers, and just eventually said, I should do this for myself. I started a company doing lead gen, built it up, sold it. My partner stole it from me. We'll get to that probably. And then I started this business I'm in now. And now for the last 12 years, I think 12 years or so, I've been independent and leading the team here at SurePath. So it's been a ride from going from, hey, I don't have to be a W-2 salary guy to being an entrepreneur. And so that's, as you know, wild and crazy and fun too. So
it has its own exciting challenges.
For sure. Just say the least.
So let's
beginning
talk
and the end.
Right. So let's talk about that moment. Let's get into the ... in between of, college and workforce and running your own business now and leading your own team and all that. you said there was a moment where you're like, I don't, I don't want to do this. I want to get out of, working the W-2 thing. And then you leaped into being independent,
Yeah.
starting your own
It was
business.
pivotal for me because, my parents, I really wanted to make them proud. And I didn't realize that was in there. I mean, of course I knew in the basic terms, but I didn't realize how much that was probably guiding me. And so, starting there was not, even at that point, it was so far from my brain, like starting a business was just more than I could even fathom. So,
Sure.
every now and then I might build a website for somebody or do something, once I learned HTML from the HTML book, I might, and that's funny too. I started with like Notepad and Windows and then went to Front Page and Dreamweaver. So yeah, that's how old I am.
Oh
In
my
fact,
gosh.
I was telling somebody the other day, we run Google ads and we do all kinds of things for our clients there. I was telling somebody that there used to be a thing called overture.com. And that was before Google ads. And so quite literally, we ran ads with them for 5 cents a click, no matter what industry you're in, no matter what, every click was 5 cents. That was fun. But yeah, so I just, I didn't have this vision of starting a business. I was in a W-2 job and something would happen. I get laid off or downsized or whatever. Marketing, that happens more than you think.
Sure.
And yeah, so I would say, well, maybe I can moonlight, maybe I can build a website, maybe I can freelance for a little while. And the freelancing mindset eventually turned into, man, maybe I should actually create a company and do this for real. So November of 98, I created an LLC. Well, I think it was an S Corp then, but I created a company then. And that's kind of when it all shifted,
Yeah. Yeah. So it wasn't like a light bulb moment, like I'll start a business. You kind of were in that freelance world of just kind of picking and choosing jobs and, trying to grab whatever.
I almost feel like God
Yeah.
bullied me into it, He's like, I'm just going to keep railroad. I was like a sheep, sheepdog. He's railroading the sheep.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I feel like it was like more like that. It was more of a journey, more of a transition into,
cool.
well, geez, what I'm never going to downsize myself. So why wouldn't I create my own book of business? And then that started to kind of take place. And then I don't know if you remember, I don't even remember what year it was. It might've been 90, 98, 97, 98, 99, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And the internet marketing craze hit. And I don't know if you're familiar with these guys, but Frank Kern and, Ryan Dice and Andy Jenkins and a bunch of people like that, I started following, and even older guys than that, but I started following them and they were making a lot of money selling ebooks and little PDFs and whatnot.
Yep.
And so I that started to light something like, hey, maybe I should do that. And I was working at Nationwide Insurance as a business analyst on the 13th floor in Columbus, Ohio. I had it made as far as like company and career progression if I wanted to, I suppose. But I just had no interest at all. So
yeah.
And then we found out we were pregnant and with Ashlyn, who's my daughter, and we found out that, and I was like, okay, well, my wife and I's salary combined barely made the bills. So if she goes away from work for any longer period of time, and we had never considered having her stay home, but that's what we wanted to do after I saw the picture of the ultrasound. I'm like, what? I can't have her in daycare. What are we going to do here? And so one of us has to stay home and I make more money. So maybe that's me. And that really spurred me into, okay, make more money. And so at the same time, both of those things were happening. And it kind of created a desire, an internal desire that made me want to go, okay, I've got to really look at this and change the projection of what we could do here.
Nice. So you start a business, an S Corp, you partner with somebody. I've heard some of the story before, but we only have so much time. I'm sure there's a lot to dig into.
For sure. I'll keep it brief.
But things went south. You kind of had a pretty dark turn in your story.
Yeah.
Relive as much of that as you want to, I guess.
I'll keep it short. He doesn't deserve much time of this podcast episode. Yeah. Oh, definitely won't tell you his name. The short version is I in those moonlighting sort of phases, I was like building websites for our church or for a friend or,
Yeah.
small places here and there. And over the course of time, we would build websites. I'd see them a few months later. How's the website? And they'd always say, inevitably, and I just, it's just stuck in my brain, man, it looks great. Thanks so much. It looks great.
Mm.
Nobody ever said it was working. It's not bringing more people to church. It's not bringing more business. It's not doing what I
Right.
wanted it to do, but man, it looks great. And I was like, something inside me, they were complimenting me. They were trying to tell me great job,
Right. Sure.
but I just didn't hear it that way at all.
Mm.
And it was a resounding. So I started trying to learn SEO, which for those of you listeners who may not be technical or know that term or hate that term yet, it's called search engine optimization. And basically it's the game, which is all it really is, of trying to, pray to the Google gods that you're going to get in the top of the search engines. And just a little bit more scientific than that. And I know people who are really good at it, but it's tough. And so I started trying to learn that. And over that time, I got good enough to get ranked. And some guy in California found me, called me, said, hey, build me a website. Over the course of a few months, he started changing his scope of work so much that he was burning through so much money that I finally called him and said, we'll just call him Al for this podcast. I called him and I said, Al, you're gonna blow through your whole budget and you're not even gonna have a website. Like, can I just give you some advice? And so he's like, absolutely, love that. And so fast forward a couple months later, he calls me and says, hey, you're really smart. And also you've helped me a lot. Maybe you should partner with me. Pray and talk. He was a Christian too. He said, pray, talk to your wife, give me a percentage of the business you'd like to own. And let's talk a week from now. And so I talked to her and I said, yeah, I think I want to do it. And so he said, okay, I'd like 35%, but maybe I should just ask for 25, given it's all his intellectual property. And so I went back and said, hey, would 30% be too much? And he said, absolutely not. Not no, but heck no. It's 50%, 50-50 or nothing.
Mm.
And so I thought, wow, stand-up guy. And we started this 4-year journey of this business. It was basically lead generation for an industry he was in. And we built it up. It was lead generation for self-storage. So I think the self-storage units you can go rent. And the biggest player in the market was Monster Moving at the time. And we were second to them. We got it to big enough that it was second to them. And so we eventually were selling the leads coming in that were, leads for self-storage. And, we were spending, first each one of us had, $50 on our credit card. So we each spent $50, which was a total of $100 on Google Ads. At that point, you could actually get something. And we turned that $100 a month into almost 30,000 a month and spend. And we were bringing in 2 to 1. So 55 to 60,000 would come in. We would spend 20 to 30,000. And, we started building the company. About 4 years in, he's my best friend. I've never met him at this point face to face because he's in California, but it's kind of the internet world, I guess it is. But he was literally my best friend. We talked every day. And he says, hey, calls me and says, hey, these guys who just sold 123inkjets.com, they want to buy our company. And I'm like, do we want to sell our company? When things are going good, why would you do that? And,
yeah.
And he was still working a job, just a little bit longer. And I was full-time. Long story short, he was feeling like he really wanted to, and I didn't. And yet, so who am I to stop him from realizing his dreams? So I flew to California. We sold the company. I met him and his wife for the first time. And literally 4 months later, he stabbed me in the back. I read an email from him to the partners saying profanities that I can't repeat here. Basically, screw him. Let's take it. So I couldn't have believed it. If you had told me that, I wouldn't have believed it. I had to see it with my own eyes that he did that. And so there was a period of time, 3 to 6 months, where I was fighting for ownership and rights. It was all my intellectual property, the lead generation, the software, all the website, everything. And they knew that. And so what was contractually going to be a $386,000 payout, I got 10. And so, and listeners, here's a tip, a free legal tip from a non-lawyer.
Right.
Make sure your state of litigation. Yes. Make sure your state of litigation is in your home state, because that's what got me. My attorney said it's a great contract, you'll win, but you'll spend $500,000 to get 380. So anyway, long story short, that ruined us, financially for a while. We didn't make any money.
My gosh.
Lost everything. But here's the thing. I didn't lose this. I didn't lose what I'd learned. And years later, I could literally look back and realize that this was a blessing in so many ways. And I still think that today. Yes, it was hard. Yes, it was a dark time for me. I dealt with anxiety and depression for a while, and it was for sure a rough thing. But man, God used it in a really powerful way. And I learned a lot along the way, which is what the foundation of all that I do now was built then, really was.
Yeah.
And so, so that's kind of that story. And, after I forgave him, I lost the resentment and the anger, and now it's just a matter of, go forward and
carry on, water under the bridge, right? Yeah. I'm a firm believer and I hold on to this because I make so many mistakes, but the concept that you learn more from your mistakes and your failures than you do your successes, yes, success is great. And that's ultimately, as a business owner, I guess what a lot of people are striving for is some level of success, however they measure that. But you don't always learn the best lessons from those mistakes. Sometimes they're costly mistakes and they hit hard, but they teach great lessons.
And, now we run a marketing, coaching, consulting company, and it's sort of like a, performance agency. And I would just say this, if you look at what you just said, even in marketing, if we win the first crack at bat and we win, the campaign wins, we don't know what other things didn't work. But when you learn what doesn't work first, and then you get something that wins because you made hypotheses from the things that didn't work, man, it's a totally different game, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey everyone, Jeremiah Isley here, your host of In the Ellipsis, with a quick reminder that we are powered by Crooked Path Productions. At Crooked Path Productions, we help people make podcasts. And right now, we're giving away all of our secrets. If you go to fasttrack.crookedpathmedia.com, you can download our full Fast Track podcast guide, including our pre-production, our production checklist, our post-production checklist, a full gear guide, and a content planner framework. It's literally like all of our secrets for creating a great sounding, great looking, world-class podcast. So if you want to check that out and you want to get your own podcast underway, you can head on over there and get that, again, completely free, no strings attached. All right, that's enough of that. Let's get back to the show. Okay, so you're crushed, right?
Yeah.
Business stolen out from under you. Walk us through your next steps. You learned, like you said, you learned lessons from it. Your state of litigation is important.
No legal advice. That's not legal.
Right. We're not giving you solicited legal advice.
No, not at all.
But so what were your next steps that led you towards SurePath Digital, or was that like the next thing for you?
Oh yeah, good question.
Take us through those next few steps.
Yeah, so I knew that I knew that I had some skills, that especially SEO, some email marketing, some pay-per-click paid advertising.
Yeah.
So what I did was I had a couple people that had contacted me from just knowing what we were doing, and friends of the friends that I had. And so I reached out to them, and I had said, no, I'm too busy to work with them. So I reached out to them and said, hey, I got an idea, crazy one. I'm not sure I know how to do this, right? I'm not sure I even can get you results. So I'm just going to work for free for like a month. And which is funny in SEO, like SEO should take 6 months to even think about working. And so I said, I'm just going to work for free for a month, maybe a month or two. I said, but after that, if I do get you any results, would you pay me? And I think the first thing I was bold enough to ask for was like $1,500 a month. I said, would you pay me, say, $1,000 or $1,500 a month to do it ongoing if I get results? And so obviously he was on the clock, because we did having to file for bankruptcy and lost everything. But that's okay, because, this time in between, I built up an agency. And I did. I built up an agency, had 3 or 4 or 5 paying clients, and started to make enough money to pay the bills. And then I got a client that was sort of bigger. And they asked me to become on the board of directors and kind of do more with them. So I kind of pushed most of the other clients aside, worked with them, and then they went belly up in 2009 when a lot of places went belly up. And then that was a move from Columbus to Cleveland, which is where I now live next to you. And so it was that sort of, I was still tempted to go back to, again, from probably my upbringing, to go back to that job, that even though it was a contract job, right? It was a 1099 full-time contract gig. It was still a job. It was still predictable, you know, in the back of my mind. I think that was always built in. And so I did that, and that failed. And then I just got, you know, I needed to move and whatever else. And so I just got a job here in Cleveland, and a couple jobs later, I'm like, you know, this is not just layoffs or whatever, downsizings. One time I got let go, it was like, you're the highest paid person in the department, so we had to let you go. Like, that's your fault. You know, so anyway, it just got old, you know, it got tiring and hard on the family. And I just decided I'd had enough. And so I said, not going to freelance or moonlight. My freelance, but I'm not going to moonlight. I'm going to do this. And that was, like I said, about 12 years ago. And so that was where it all changed. You know, now we've been doing this strong. And that, I think, was that mentality that just said, hey, I don't know if I can even do this, and therefore I can't charge anybody. So I'll just do it for free for a while. If I hadn't done that, if that hadn't happened, I don't know what would have happened. Maybe I would have gotten another job right then. I don't know. So
yeah, that's interesting. It's so funny because any entrepreneur, you know, especially folks that do services, you know, their business is a service. The last thing they will tell you is to do work for free. For sure. You know, they'll say, no, know your value, you know, don't do work for free. Like, what are you doing?
For sure.
But it was like, that was like a moment for you where like it was almost like you had to prove it to yourself.
I think so. That was the belief. I think both can be true. And I think both are true. We do, again, marketing, digital marketing, that type of thing. The full funnels, lead gen, marketing automation, that thing. And so I tell people all the time, take two companies in your head right now, listener, Kohl's and Chipotle. Which one discounts, which one doesn't, and how often do they do it? Chipotle discounts when they kill someone. Kohl's discounts every time, all the time. You don't go to Kohl's if you don't have Kohl's cash or coupons, or I don't go to Kohl's, but my wife goes to Kohl's. And when she goes to Kohl's, she always has some discount, right?
Right.
So I just think, like, for me, I tell my clients, don't ever cheapen yourself or lower your value. Like, but these are established businesses. They've been selling, you know, right? Whereas me getting started, you're right. There was that belief. Can I, should I do this? Can I do this? Right. Should I take money for it? Well, I don't know. And so,
I won't even tell you the prices I used to charge people to edit their podcasts. Oh my gosh.
Right.
I look back, I'm like, oh man, I was working really hard for not much.
About an 8 cents an hour. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If sometimes you're not even positive, you know, you have to get a refund or something. You're negative.
I don't want to do this math. We're just going to
that's
files.
true. That's part of, I guess, if there's a tidbit I could give somebody, I look back, and you and I have talked about it too, so I know you feel the same. I look back on its value creation. There's a design guy, you probably know his name. His handle is called The Future. I don't know.
Okay, I know the name. I'm not super familiar with him, but
he mostly is for design guys and gals, but honestly, the way he thinks is good for people to get early. And it's just that ideally you don't want to trade your time for money. Now, eventually, I mean, you can make a lot of money trading 1 hour for some amount of money. Lawyers charge up to $thousands per hour, right? And so it's not that you can't make money that way. It's just that you never buy freedom or leverage that way. And so if you're charging based on value instead of time, and most people don't care about time, right? Especially with like the sales, marketing, you know, different podcast production, they don't really care about the time it takes you. They care about the quality and the production level. And so I think that's the biggest shift I had to make was I'm not worth that much money per hour. But what they're getting is, you know, it's a big shift.
I always to me, it's always the simile or the metaphor that I use is like a plumber. Like if I have a pipe that's leaking in my house that I don't know how to fix, I don't want, like, I'll pay the guy $200 for a 3-minute fix because I don't want him to take all day fixing a leaky pipe that's,
Exactly.
flooding my home. So yeah, the value is his knowledge and his expertise and his skill to fix the problem that I have, not the hours that it's going to take him to do it.
And that's a great analogy too. And it breaks down also, let's pretend the water wasn't running. I mean, does you and your wife want to share the home with a plumber all day? Nope. Yeah. Let's get him in and out, and then it's
let's
back
fix
to you
it and move on. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So that's a great analogy, and it works though. But people still struggle. Like, I can't. I can't charge that much per hour or per project, and you
right.
Everything breaks. And the other thing I think too, I'll leave you with this, is you have to realize too. And I think maybe Alex Ramosi said this recently as well, but you're serving them better the more you make, because now you're going to be in business longer. You're going to be, more profitable. You're going to be more engaged and not having to split your time between so many other things. And they're going to get better quality for having paid you more as well. So it's even better for them. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we've got just a couple minutes left, but 12 years ago, start your own team, you're running strong. Two-part question. What's your outlook? Like, what do you see for the future of SurePath Digital? And then 2, what are your struggles currently, and what do you think your struggles are moving forward that you kind of have to keep an eye on?
It's a good question. Let's go with the second one first. So the struggles we currently face are, I think, similar to a lot of industries, but for sure anybody in sales and marketing industry knows right now, especially digitally, there couldn't be more things changing, and they couldn't be changing at a faster speed or rate. And so that is always been true since the internet, but it's ever more true now. And I think
it's really ramped up.
Yeah, for sure. There's been a hockey stick. And so for us, it's really kind of partly that, but also partly my own restlessness that I want to create exceptional value for, even if I have to less people and do more with them, or more, better results for them than I do bigger revenues for us. And so, and then there's a lot that drives that I probably can't get, I don't have time to get into, but the moral of the story is we've always done good work, but sometimes we didn't do it for people and companies that we aligned with well. And now we're only working with people we align with. We're only working with people that really I can get on board with promoting or telling people about and saying, hey, these cats are doing it well, and they're providing value, and they're good people. And so,
nice.
So that's a blessing. And I thank God for that a lot. And so anyway, with that said, we really see, this isn't a very futuristic sort of doesn't take a lot of vision to see this, but AI is going to be the next internet, right? It's going to be the next blop in the road, like the internet was, but it's going to be bigger than that. And so, it probably already somewhat maybe is. And so we saw when ChatGPT went down recently, people lost their jobs because they couldn't produce work, that type of thing, but it'll even be more. So I think for us, looking at how we do that is a struggle for me internally. Like, who do I want to work with? I'm getting a little bit bored kind of with what we're doing, because it seems like it's building the funnel or the website or the marketing campaign that we've done maybe 50 times by this point. And so while it's still fun to get the results for people and see their businesses light up, it's getting a little boring in the tactics and the way that it works. Because think about it, for me, it's interesting for us, what doesn't change is human beings. Depending on whether you're an evolutionist or a creationist, it's either been 6,000 years or billions of years,
right? Probably
millions of years, right, for humans that we've been around, and that nothing has changed in what motivates us, in the inner workings. A lot has changed other ways, societally and culturally, But what drives a human being to do what he or she wants to do or does really doesn't change, and it's not going to.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of the struggle. And then for us, I think the future is AI, but AI in a different twist, and it has two different twists. One is that we're gonna focus on AI solutions that help businesses and the employees that they need to keep. Right? There's some businesses that most businesses, if they have more than, I'd say probably 10 or 12 employees, there's probably one or two that aren't rowing the boat as hard as the others, and probably should get on a plan or get off the boat. And so for the ones that should stay, we should empower them to use this instead of just them being replaced with a bot. Yeah. And that's the important part that I think we want to bring to businesses, is not only AI or solutions or technology that works, but how to empower their current employees to use it and get the most from it. Because people right now, you can go to ChatGPT and try to write a marketing piece, and if I go there, it'll probably be better unless you're in marketing. And so it matters. And then two, what to systematize and what to humanize. Most companies get really, really rambunctious and excited about a technology like this, like when marketing automation came out and they tried to automate everything. And there's just some things that human beings should still do with other human beings. And most people don't get that well. I don't know why, but we think we do. And so that's one of the things that we're going to try and bring in is, okay, hey, AI, bots, and marketing automation can do this, but let's have human beings do this piece, and let's teach them how to do it with excellence. So that's kind of how we're going in the future.
Very cool. Yeah, it's going to be wild just to see the AI landscape play itself out. You know, there's a big land grab right now for which AI assistant are you using and all of that. So yeah.
And generative AI will be a whole AGI.
Oh my gosh.
Thing.
Yeah.
Go do this. Go build this website with this idea. I saw 2 days ago a little demo of, I want to build a DocuSign equivalent web app. Go do it.
Wow.
And it took an hour and a half, and this thing wrote copy, built websites, built an API, built the DocuSign.
Yeah.
Like crazy.
Very crazy. Yeah, it's going to be the wild, wild west all over again for sure, just in digital form. Hey, we're just about out of time. How do people find you? Go ahead and throw out your socials, however you want people to find you, if they want to chat with you about marketing and AI, and
for sure,
maybe an AI bot will hit you up.
No, they won't actually. We don't do that. We don't do that, funny enough. Anyway, just SurePathDigital.com. So it's SurePath digital.com. And that's a great place to sort of get started. And then if there's a button or two there, depending on where you're at in the site, that'll get you to the right place. We typically don't want to increase the number of channels we engage with people on. We're a little bit different there. So just the website will be the best place for sure.
All right, cool. Well, hey, thanks so much for being on. If you're listening or watching this and Jason said something that really struck a chord with you, or you know somebody that could really benefit from hearing his story, feel free to share this wherever you're listening, however you share. That's a great way to thank Jason for his time coming on the show today. And if you are looking for podcast production or media production of any kind, you can always, like I said at the top of the show, find my contact in the info in the show notes, crookedpathmedia.com. It's a great place to find me, or on the socials at Jeremiah Isley. Hey man, thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me, man. Loved it. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah. So for my guest, Jason Keppe, I'm Jeremiah Isley, and you are in the Ellipsis.